And it looks like recording has begun. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Jim Smith for everyone as well. I'd like to welcome everybody to this media availability. Obviously, Thanksgiving is this Thursday. The holiday season from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day is a busy time for fires and fire deaths in Minnesota. Why is it a busy time? The three leading causes of fires in Minnesota are all holiday staples. Those are cooking, heating, and open flames. And with that, I thought we would open it up to State Fire Marshal Jim Smith. If you have questions for him, please feel free to chime in at any point here. But Fire Marshal, can you tell me a little bit about how prevalent fires were maybe this past winter in Minnesota?
Sure. Thank you, Amber. So Minnesota typically sees an uptick in fires in Minnesota during the winter months, November through through January. What's most concerning is that we see an uptick in fire fatalities right around the holidays. Last year, between the holiday season, Thanksgiving to January, we had 16 people who perished in fire, and 12 of those, 2/3 of them, perished in fires between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so that's very tragic on so many levels. Obviously, as a state fire marshal, I don't want to see any fire deaths in the state of Minnesota. But it really does, it just punches you in the gut when you get these fire fatalities around the holiday seasons where everybody's supposed to be gathering and making memories for years to come, and then we have these tragedies.
You know, I'll go ahead and ask you another question. We do have a lot of people over to our homes. We're hosting events. We're doing a lot of cooking, decking the halls, decorating our homes. If there was one of those things that you're most concerned about going into the holiday season, what would that be?
Well, obviously, cooking is probably number one. And it seems like a strange paradox that you have people in a house, yet you still have cooking fires. The problem is that when people show up, the people who are cooking want to visit. They are distracted. They want to engage in all these different conversations, and they don't keep an eye on the stove. A stove is a very important appliance, but it can also be very dangerous because it gets very hot. And we see an increase in stovetop fires and oven fires as well. And our number one thing is, if you're cooking, always remain in the kitchen, always be aware of what you are cooking, watching it at all times. But most importantly, too, is make sure you have a plan. What is your plan? Do you have a cookie sheet or a lid that fits the top of the pan that's on the stove? Do you know that if your oven starts on fire, the door itself really is an asset to putting the fire out? Keep the oven door closed and simply turn the oven off. The fire needs oxygen to breathe. And with that door shut, it's not going to get the oxygen it needs to breathe. Yes, it's going to get smoky, all of the byproducts of fire, but you are not going to allow that fire to get outside of the oven. The other thing too, talking about ovens, and I've caught my wife doing it, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but as you talked about decking the halls, getting decked, she likes to drape those pretty Christmas towels over the door handle of an oven. Those are flammable items, and if you have an oven fire or a grease fire, you're just giving the fire something more to consume. So if you want to decorate the house, please do. Just don't decorate your stove.
That's good advice. Talk to me a little bit about turkey frying those turkeys.
Actually, a fried turkey is absolutely delicious. There are two major issues when you fry a turkey. One, we see way too many people doing it in close proximity to combustibles, i.e. you place it out on your wood deck, you place it too close to your home. That's number one. The other thing is that you don't understand that the turkey displaces liquid. And too many people fill that kettle up way too high with oil. And when they drop the turkey in, it displaces the liquid. There's only one place for that liquid to go, and that is up and out where it hits the flame. So my recommendation, if you're going to fry a turkey, one, invite me over because I love the taste of those things. But most assuredly, do it out in the open, do it out in your lawn, and put the turkey in the kettle and then add your oil. That's going to tell you how much oil you need to cover the turkey. When you pull the turkey out, you're going to see that it is significantly less than what you thought it was if you're going to fill the kettle up all the way with oil. So always pre-measure before you turn on the burner and put the turkey in the fryer.
We are obviously in the cold weather season of the year where we're searching for warmth. And we might be using alternative heating sources. Talk to us a little bit about what we should be mindful of when we're using heating sources in our home with all of our loved ones around and all of the holiday festivities happening.
Sure. Alternative heating sources, we'll start with space heaters. As they are manufactured, they're a very safe item. What happens is, and far too often, is people will use a space heater too close to their bed or too close to something that can start on fire. Space heaters have heating elements that are extremely hot. And if you're going to bed and that space heater is close by, you may be very careful while you're awake, ready to go to sleep. But once you go to sleep, if you're like me, you toss and turn, and that bed cover or sheet can fall over the side of the bed and cover up that space here, and then you've got a fire. The other thing is people don't understand that a space heater draws a lot of power. The cord coming out of the space heater that is supposed to be plugged in the wall is manufactured in such a way that it can stand that type of power. But what people are doing is plugging an extension cord into the wall and then putting the space heater at a distance away from the wall. That extension cord plus the cord from the unit itself, those get extremely hot. And we have pictures after pictures of power strips that have literally melted due to the heat. We've got power cords that have started carpeting or bedding or clothing on fire. So if you're going to use a space heater, keep it away from all combustibles and do not plug it into an extension cord. Plug it directly into a wall socket.
Oh, that brings up another good question about space heaters. They market space heaters today that are no-tip space heaters. If they become unstable, they'll shut off if they fall. So your recommendation then is to never leave a space heater on when you are sleeping or when you're not home.
That's exactly right. Just because it has a tip over safety switch, to be totally honest, that's not where we're seeing the problem. Very few fires are caused because the space heater is tipped over. It's because it has come in contact with a flammable object, such as a bed sheet, clothing, or something like that. So space heaters, use them to warm the room, but turn them off before you go to sleep. Don't let them run all night because it is a heat source that can cause problems if you're not monitoring. No different than your stove.
Okay. A lot of families will be taking the long holiday weekend to go get their fresh Christmas tree and start decorating for Christmas. What advice do you have to everybody who is going to go get that tree, right after Thanksgiving, and it'll be up until Christmas for a whole month? What advice do you have for them to make sure that that tree stays fresh and it's not posing a fire risk?
That's a great question because I love the smell of fresh Christmas trees. But as you say, they're a live product that we cut and then we bring into our house. There are a number of methods. First of all, when you're putting your Christmas tree into the base, make sure that you cut off about an inch of the tree trunk, because that opens up the pores on the bottom of the tree to allow it to drink water. Water is a friend to a Christmas tree. So make sure that it always has enough water, and you will be amazed at how much water not only a tree can consume, but just the dry air in your house, it'll evaporate out. And so it's amazing that you may literally have a gallon of water in that base and the next morning it's dry. And once you start drying out a Christmas tree, you've got literally a ticking time bomb in your house. Currently, we're telling people that you've got between 2 to 3 minutes to get out of a house if your house is on fire. If your dry Christmas tree goes up, you have less than 30 seconds to get out of your bedroom and get down the stairs. And unfortunately, many times that Christmas tree is in a location, if it's upstairs, that may be blocking your exit. So water your Christmas tree. Excuse me, can a Christmas tree catch on fire? Excuse me, if it's watered, it sure can, but it's not going to support combustion like a dry tree. So make sure you're watered.
That's great advice. I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about having the proper alerting equipment in your homes, whether it be a smoke or CO alarms. Talk to us a little bit about what we should be doing to make sure that those are operational during this time of year.
Sure. So let's start out with carbon monoxide alarms, or CO alarms. The winter months increase the risk of CO getting into your house from various methods. If your home is heated by any type of appliance that has an open flame, you have an increased risk for carbon monoxide. So what we are recommending is that everybody who has gas-fired water heaters, furnaces, make sure that at least once or twice or once a year, or maybe once every other year, make sure they're serviced by a licensed professional to make sure that they're burning clean. And also the flue, that stack that comes out of the top and goes outside, is actually drawing the heat or the CO out of the house. Now, as far as getting it out of the house, we will be in for some more snow throughout this winter. It's going to come. And what we're seeing more and more with the side venting water heaters is that the vents are getting plugged up with snow. Snow drifts come up against your house and they plug up that vent. And if the vent is plugged up, there is no place for that carbon monoxide to exit your home. It's going to back up and it's going to go into your house. Carbon monoxide is tasteless, odorless, colorless. It has all the perfect ingredients to cause you great harm without you even knowing it. So get a carbon monoxide alarm, put it on every living unit, living floor of your house, test it. Those will go off at a very low range. It'll give you plenty of time to get out of the house should it go off. One other tip is, if you're one of those people who likes to warm their cars up in the garage before you go to work, don't do it with a closed garage door, because heat rises. That service door to your house, even though it's tight, does have leaks and will draw in that air from the garage, and you could have an increase in carbon monoxide in your house. So make sure you have a carbon monoxide alarm, make sure it's tested and working. We just got done with daylight saving time, where everybody should have tested their smoke alarms and made sure that you've changed the batteries. Make sure you have working smoke alarms. Working smoke alarms is the #1 defense against tragedy in your home. It will detect smoke much sooner than you ever will. And if that alarm goes off, get out of the house, plain and simple. But an alarm does no good if it's not working. Make sure you've tested it. Make sure you vacuumed out around the alarm so no cobwebs or dust are occluding the little sensors that pick up that smoke. And make sure you've already changed the batteries. One last item on carbon monoxide. A lot of us enjoy ice fishing. And we have gas heaters on our ice houses. Unfortunately and tragically, each year we see somebody who has succumbed to carbon monoxide. We had one instance where somebody did have a carbon monoxide alarm in their fish house. The unfortunate thing is that they put a fresh battery in the beginning of the season, and everybody knows that when temperatures get cold, that battery gets cold and it dies. So if you do use a gas furnace for your ice house, make sure you have a seal alarm and a fire alarm, smoke detector in that fish house, but always just pick up a pack of AA, or excuse me, 9-volt batteries on your way up to we're talking $10 for 2 of them, and change those batteries out, because an ice house left alone empty for a week, those batteries will not be good enough to operate that thing. So we want to make sure that we don't see any more tragedies like we have over the past couple of years of people sleeping in their ice house and never waking up.
Speaking of prevention, I think it's also important now to remind people about fire hydrants and the responsibility that we have as property owners if we have a hydrant outside of our home. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure, I was in the fire service for 35 years, and wintertime always posed a problem. Many people don't understand that most fire trucks only have about 500 gallons of water on them, which is about a minute to 2 minutes of firefighting before that tank goes empty, which means we need to have a supplemental water supply. If we have to, one, try and locate the hydrant because it's covered by a snow drift or whatever, and two, dig it out, we are wasting valuable time for those firefighters to get the necessary water to make sure that your fire in your house doesn't grow any bigger than need be. So please, 3 foot by 3 foot around the fire hydrant. That gives the firefighters enough room to put the wrench on and open it up. And that is going to be the best way to assure that those fighters and the truck operator have enough water to put out the fire at your home.
My last question would be this. There was one night last winter where my CO alarm went off in the basement by the furnace, and I had just replaced the batteries during the time change, and I thought this can't be the battery. But I thought, well, should I call 911? Should I have somebody come and check it out? What would be your advice if you know that those batteries are good? The alarm is sounding, but you're not sure, and you know that there could be a risk here. What would you say to people?
Call 911. Fire departments, we don't charge. It's not like DoorDash where you got to pay a delivery fee. We're going to show up to your house. We're going to make sure we have the sniffers, or the fire departments have sniffers to check out. The other thing too is when you call 911 and on a smoke, or excuse me, a CO alarm that is activated, they're also calling your local utility company around the metro here, Center Point. They are also dispatching somebody, because it's the fire department may get there, and simply by opening the door from the outside to the inside, it may clear out some of the CO. And so their monitors are not going to read the same reading that the CO alarm read and activated to 10 minutes earlier. When Center Point or any other utility company gets there, they are going to do a deep dive into your furnace and water heater to make sure they're being efficiently burned and all of that. The flues are clean. So call 911. It's the safest thing, the best thing you can do. Don't play around with a gas that you can't smell, you can't see, and has deadly consequences if you breathe too much of it.
Okay, Fire Marshal Smith, is there anything I missed? Anything you want to leave us with for a lasting thought?
Smoking, you know, we have still, smoking is the #1 cause of fire fatalities in the state. And that's not somebody standing up smoking and all of a sudden a fire occurs. It is the person who is not putting their cigarette out properly. It's those people who have guests over who smoke and they haven't furnished them proper ashtrays or told them where to put the cigarettes out. One of the things that we're seeing that just really is upsetting is obviously in the fall, winter, we have a lot of flower pots out on the deck. The flowers have been pulled out, you know, we're waiting for next year. And there's that peat moss sitting there. Well, let's just go ahead and put that cigarette out in the peat moss. That's a recipe for disaster. We have seen so many deck fires due to carelessly discarded cigarettes into flower pots that still have that sphagnum moss or peat moss or whatever like that. That is a flammable or combustible live organism, and you know, so make sure that you discard your cigarettes. If you've been drinking alcohol or something like that, I know this is very difficult, but you're going to get tired eventually. You don't want to go to bed. Don't smoke in the bedroom. If you want that last cigarette before you go to bed, do it in the kitchen, put it out properly, and then go to bed. Too many people think, well, I'll just have a cigarette while I'm lying here in bed and I'll put it out and whatever. And they fall asleep before they put it out. That's dangerous. Unfortunately, this year already, we have seen 7 people succumb to fire due to the fact that they were smoking while on oxygen. These are the people who have lung disorders and they have what we call a nasal cannula in their nose, and yet they're still smoking. Cigarettes and oxygen do not mix. That is clearly a recipe for disaster. And we've got 7 grieving families out there this year due to the fact that their loved one decided to smoke while on oxygen.
That's really unfortunate, and we wish those families our heartfelt condolences this holiday season. I'm sure that that will be a very difficult time for them, and we certainly hope everyone else is able to heed our advice and take care of their loved ones the way we would all wish us to this holiday season. I am going to take a beat now and just open it up to see if any of the media members online have any additional questions that we didn't answer.
I stumped a reporter. Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say I counted to 10 and I didn't hear any additional questions. So I think we're good to go. Jim, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, and right back at you. I hope everybody has a very safe and wonderful, enjoyable holiday season. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.